I wonder who's on this role, even.
The
Fine.
what?
Who's on this role for the coaching stuff? Fantasy, Hebrew, Jeff. Okay, okay. Okay, you can see everything?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Do you want to talk about this matchup? Like, do you remember about, like, how it went? Anything in particular that you're struggling with that you want particular insight on?
Um, I just don't have any like much knowledge in the matchup at all.
Sure.
So I just kind of I remember I just kind of tried to needle camp a little bit and
Mm-hmm.
look for like fair grab openings.
Okay. And do you remember uh just like the gist of how the match went or any spots you were struggling with in particular?
Uh, I know there were some spots where I either just attacked the puff while they were crouching. I never caught on to the puff player, but like the puff player would always like land like with a back air and would immediately crouch, and I'll immediately go in for a grab and just get rested or some kind of attack.
Yeah, so that's usually like a pretty. I mean, that's like a notorious thing that Puff has
Yeah,
against characters with high
it's
grabs, right?
yeah stuff that I just wasn't looking at or catching on to.
Yeah, so I mean, whenever Puff crouches like that, you can. It's important that you can like throw air needles at her. You can like fair them and then dash back quickly, and then that should be safe. You space the fair or
Yeah,
some other aerial. And then like once you get them to higher percent, you can start using like forward tilt. Like once forward tilt starts knocking them down.
yeah. I think I mentioned in the VOD that I needed to mix in needle grabs more, just raw needle grabs.
Yeah, I mean, just going for the grab is like pretty risky against Puff, right? You have to pretty much only like go for the grab if you're confident that they won't be crouching, right?
Yeah,
So, I mean, a big problem with the matchup is that it can be hard to find a grab, but also just like if you look for the grab in the wrong spot, then you usually get arrested.
yeah,
So that's why I suggested you should go with like, oh, like just needle them or aerial them and then back away, and then like
yeah,
play the next interaction, or you can like down smash relatively early because it starts knocking down earlier. You can and then you can like forward tilt once forward tilt starts knocking down, that kind of stuff. Does that make sense?
yeah. Let me write this down.
Sure. Yeah, you generally don't want to grab unless if they do an aerial that's like, for example, if they do a rising aerial on your shield, then they won't have the time to land necessarily, right? So if they don't space an aerial that's high on your shield or that's done rising, then you'll be able to get the grab. Or if you just have a read that they're not going to be crouching, then you can get a grab. But just trying to like just needle grab or just grab in the matchup is a pretty good way to end up getting killed.
Yeah, that happened. I believe a few times to me in this set. I just went like for a dash grab or like a JC grab, and she was just crouched under it.
Yeah, in that case, like it's really not worth it.
And and like you were saying, air like fairing or like doing an aerial on crouch. I think I've done that. I did that on the Yoshi game.
Yeah,
I was able to like push the puff away with like space fairs.
yeah,
I think I knocked her off stage and
yeah,
eventually got the kill.
yeah. Spacing forward and back air is really important in the matchup, like because your spot back air is really strong. So if you can just like get underneath her, which is like going to happen a reasonable amount of the time, because Puff likes to jump a lot. So whenever she jumps, if you can like sneak underneath her and then like zone her away with your tipper back air, then that's also a pretty good spot. Okay, I'll watch this again. You probably could have been there. That's fine.
There.
Okay, so yeah, let's just go take it from the top then. So like, what's funny is like kind of like how much space the puff player gives you. And it's like you destroy the puff player on this interaction. Like this is really good. This forward air should probably be an up air instead, but it's not a big deal. But then you just like kind of end up backing up for no reason. You're just like, oh, I'm gonna camp. And then the puff player is also camping. And nothing happens for like 20 seconds. Right?
Yeah.
Like all this time, you could have been like, you could be doing something to make her come to you. Like instead of like this stuff, you could be even just like charging needles, right? Even charging needles here is like not that bad. Or you could be threatening the puff player's space. Like if, you know, puff is like not that fast. So if you're, instead of like being over here and doing nothing, you could be up here and charging needles, or you could be over here and you could like, wait, can you see my mouse?
Yeah, I can see the mouse.
Okay, good. I'm just making sure. Or you could be over here and then like put the puff player in a bit of awkward situation because, you know, if she has to come back on you. Remember how I said like, oh, like spacing your back is really important. If you're like right here and then you had your back turned, you know, your back air kind of comes out at this angle.
Yeah, I can put it like that's the platform.
Yeah, you can put it like right here if she were to like run her aerial off, or if she were to try to fall through, and it just like make life a little more difficult for her. Ultimately, a lot of the time, your goal in this matchup is going to be like to build enough percent on her until you can grab her and then kill her with down throw up air. So, like, I don't know, doing nothing here doesn't really advance that goal.
Yeah, that's something that I also did as well. Is I punished rest with up smash instead of down throw up air.
Yeah, up smash is fine. Sheik doesn't have like great punishes on rest. I think the charge up smash is reasonable.
I think I'm not 100% sure on this, but I think down throw up air kills a little earlier.
Yeah, it might. Probably up smash will only kill earlier on like
tippers.
Yeah. It's like on Yoshi's because you can't tipper up smash through the platforms on this stage. But yeah, see, like you kind of wasted a lot of time here.
Yeah, and then I just get killed, get Nancy with a grab.
Yeah, like this needle is fine. You're just looking for a grab. I'm not really yeah, I mean, I think grab like doesn't even net you a huge reward here. Like right here, like I mean you get rusted. So like let's say instead of that, say you had just like been jumping here, then you could just like tag with an aerial, right? And then just like it wouldn't be able to do it. You're rusty for it. You're spaced, so you'd be fine.
Yeah.
So here, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, stuff like that. Just like you don't need to like go for needle grab, but like the needle fair is really good, right?
Yeah.
All your damage has come from that.
That's really what I've been looking for in this whole set.
Yeah.
It was working for like building percent. So this recovery sucks.
It's important to be patient about fighting Puffadone, right? Yeah. So do you understand like exactly like why it ended up like this?
I upbeat like way above the stage, gave the puff time to get up and rest me.
Yeah, but why did you? Do you know why you upbeat? So why you upbeat super high?
I was terrified of the puff on ledge bearing me.
Yeah, but look what happened here. So like this wouldn't normally be a problem if you could just like drop down here and then you could double jump and grab the ledge, right?
Yeah.
So it normally shouldn't be that scary. But can you remember what you did on this recovery? Other than the up
Uh,
B, that it ended up forcing you to up B early.
yeah.
I'll give you a hint. Yeah, it ended up forcing you to up B early. Do you remember what it was that you did that forced that?
Um, did I just jump immediately?
Yeah, exactly. Look at where you double jump. Once you're
Yeah.
right here, and then Pop is now down here, then it's really scary to go down here, right? Because she could just like pop down and hit you, and then you die because you got hit and you don't have a double jump.
Yeah.
So like right here, whenever you get thrown off the stage, I mean, really against any character, it's really important to just like not freak out, right? Because you kind of freaked out here, and then that's like pretty much what got you killed. Like, I don't know what this forward air is. Like, turns out with this maybe like it would have hit you if you held like fully in or whatever. But if you had just dropped down here, let's look at this fourth throw. From here, if you had just fallen down here and then just double jump to grab the ledge, I'm pretty sure she can't beat you there, right?
Yeah.
So like, that would have been much better than that. So it's like, you know, what you're looking at this recovery, you're like, oh, I up beat high and I got rested. This recovery was so bad. But really, the up being high, even though you died after it, was not like the main reason, like the biggest problem. The problem was that you just double jumped immediately.
Yeah. And I find that's a big problem that I have just in general.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think up smashing is fine there. Whatever.
Ah.
So let's talk about this one. So Puff's like up here, and Puff's like crouching, right? But you're faring up here.
Yeah.
Was this like? Did you mean to do this fair? Like, did you think something else was happening, or was this misinput?
I think I was going for like a short hop, AC fair.
Okay. I would suggest that. Yeah, kind of. I mean, obviously, you should practice your short hopping, right? But I think, furthermore, you should be able to like try to react to you getting the full hop on accident there. So like, it seems like you just kind of assumed that you were going to get this short hop there.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's necessarily the case. Because like I don't know, you in my opinion, if it were me, like I would push the button, and then if I saw myself full hop, then I'd be like, oh, I'm full hopping, and then I would know to delay my fair, right? Or I would just be like, oh, okay, I accidentally full hop, I'm gonna jump away now.
Yeah.
So you could have just like, so it's like basically what happened was you inputted jump right here.
Mm-hmm.
Right here, you inputted jump, and then you stopped looking at the screen. And you thought you were going to be like right here, but really you went all the way up here.
Yeah.
But you can see how if you had been paying attention, like that didn't need to happen. And yeah, the sphere would have worked if you had short hopped, but I think it's important to be able to react to like, oh, I missed this input, here's what I'm going to do instead.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, see? You almost died again. Why? Look what you do on the recovery. Instant double jump. And it feels safe because, like, oh, like I'm putting a hitbox to cover myself. But really, what ends up happening is you just get hit for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Jigglypuff player just messes up their ledge play, so you end up getting away with it. You end up clipping the puff with your up B. But against a different puff player, you probably die for that. You could have done a shield drop there. Yeah, this is like one of the disadvantages of like always trying to do like this platform needle camp here. Like right here, you get your jump red. But if you had been willing to just like sit a little longer, can you see how you could have just dashed underneath her, and then you'd have been fine, right? You could have probably just dashed past right here and then just short hopped and back aired her here.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think it ends with another rest.
Yeah.
Misgrab.
So like look at these spots where, well, first off, like this is very similar to the first one, right? Where you're just like over here doing nothing. Because you're probably just like, oh, I have to grab. But even if you get a grab here, it doesn't kill, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what percent down throw up air, down throw forward air kills, but like it's definitely not 50. So it's like you could be doing anything to get damage instead of just like blatantly fishing for a kill setup here when you can't get a kill.
Yeah.
And like, so here's a good example where you're just like so tunneled on getting this grab that you don't see other opportunities right in front of you. For example, right here. Like if you're just watching like I don't know, any other Sheik, like if you're watching Justin play against the Puff from this spot right here, and like you see it right here, it's like very obvious that the Sheik player should just hit the Jigglypuff, right?
Yeah.
Like you could just like forward tilt, you could down smash, you could jab, you could down tilt, you could also go for the grab, but like you just like kind of jumped away because you're like so committed to this idea of needle camping. But this was like an opportunity for you to just hit them.
Yeah.
And like you pass up a lot of these opportunities. That was a decent back air, but you didn't move it out. Oh, quickly enough. Yeah, you just like keep going for raw grab. I mean, it still doesn't kill at this percent.
Yeah.
And this is like thing where it's like, oh, you have to be careful about how you punish the aerial. Just like at that percent, you could just go with forward tilt or down smash. Okay. And like you might think like, oh, the needle camping is really good and it's difficult for Puff to deal with. But like if all you do is run away on the platforms and throw needles, you can see how this doesn't like help you that much if it's all you do, right? I mean, if you're going to camp, then you need to be able to also camping is most effective when you also can hit them. But if you're only going to camp and not going to pass up your opportunities to hit them whenever they present themselves, then I mean, whatever, sure, you do like 20 damage to them like over a 30-second span of time, and they catch you one time and kill you. Camping is pretty hard, actually. Nice. That should be an up air. That's a missed input.
I think that up tilt was intentional. I just think that's just my lack of knowledge in the match.
Yeah. Yeah, you see, whenever you go for like these needle fairs instead, where you just go for the hits instead of like forcing yourself to play for the grab, it's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
And look,
I
right here, look, you
I
just
think
down
she
smash.
crouched.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
you
it was
just down
crouching
smash the
too.
puff. The puff crouched, you just down smashed, and they're holding down, so they had terrible DI, and they just died off the side. I mean, don't get me wrong, crouch cancel can make it like pretty difficult, for example, like that,
Yeah.
to hit the Jigglypuff safely.
I,
But like,
I
if
meant
you space it, it's okay.
yeah. I mentioned how bad that down tilt was.
Yeah, your problem there was that like you should have just jumped and done an aerial or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I,
look how far they got
yeah.
pushed back. Look at this.
That's
This is what you need, what you want to do in crouch. That's great spacing. Oops.
that was
Yeah, this is much better.
that could have been a kill right there if I didn't
Yeah, but then like
act
you
there.
start focusing on this like grab again. It was like
Yeah.
all the Jigglypuff player is doing is landing and crouching, right? It was just like just use hits instead.
Mm-hmm.
You could have charged a little longer. I think it would have killed if you had charged a little longer. Yeah, look how much better you do actually whenever you go and fight. So like all these situations where you go and fight them, compare them to like you run off here and you back off a little bit, right? But then you come back in, and then you go
Yeah.
and you threaten to hit. All of these do so much better than whenever you're just like, oh, I got to camp over here. Hitting people is really important. Okay, so let's talk about this. So like right here, again, I think you kind of stop looking at the screen because so you whiffed the snare, but you had so much time, and Jigglypuff is down here. And if Jigglypuff is like at the bottom of the screen, then she can't get up to the top of the screen very well, right? She moves very quickly to left and right while she's midair, but her vertical mobility sucks at all states of the game, right?
Yeah.
So if you had been looking at the screen here, you would have what you could have done is you could have just like after the snare whiff, you could just double jump here, right? You could double jump and wave land to the top platform. There's no way she can catch you.
Yeah.
But you just like kind of like
Fast fall into her.
yeah, you were like really invested in like hitting her with the snare for some reason, even though she's at 2%. I mean, even if this snare hits her, you probably get rusted anyway because he's crouching, right?
Yeah.
She could just crouch cancel you. So, you gotta look at that. Yeah, and so like compare this interaction to the previous one. So this one you also accidentally full hop instead of short hopping, right? But
Yeah.
this time you were paying enough attention to double jump away. That's important. You just like back up so much. Like
Yeah.
you don't need to necessarily back up that much against her. Much. Like again, notice like how badly all of the interactions go once you're like just camping for a needle confirm or whatever, right? Like compare that to the spot where you were like actually trying to hit where you were actually trying to hit her and like you actually got hits. But like once you
Yeah.
get to this section where you're over on the right side of the stage and you're just like throwing needles and try to double jump away, then like I mean you get fucked. Like you instantly start losing all the interactions, like starting here. And then she just like slowly gets closer. Where it's like right here. Like you could have just hit her here, right?
Yeah.
You probably could have just forward tilted her out of the air. You're like backing up, and you're like, okay. And then again, look what you do on this recovery once you get off the stage. Instant double jump.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, she's all the way over here. If you go just down, you just go down and you double jump to the ledge, there's nothing she could do to beat you here, right? But you put yourself in this spot where you just like, oh, like this, I instant double jump, and then it's like, oh shit, I'm up here. Now I have to do something else. I'm gonna air dodge. And then you're just like, oh, I'm still in trouble. Now I have to hold shield. It's like, I don't know what to do. But, you know, or you could have just been here and then just gotten up.
Yeah.
So it seems like you have a lot of like autopilot habits in terms of like I mean, for example, the instant double jump, and you just like muscle memory out of grab or assume you got an input. But
That
I would encourage you to like really try to pay attention to actually like what your character is doing and what the other person's character is doing instead of just like how you feel.
yeah. I feel like that is probably my biggest problem right now is like piloting because I have so many habits that people just catch on to and punish me for.
Yeah, and so like what you need to do is you need to try to play in a way that's very much more intentional, right? Like if all you do is just like, oh well, you know, I sit around and then I just like zone out and like play melee while trying to recreate some sort of specific feeling, and then like, oh, why don't I get better? It's just like because you aren't like actually trying to focus on what you're doing, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like if you want to, you know, like perfect practice makes perfect is, you know, as they say, you know, practice doesn't make perfect, perfect practice makes perfect. And actually, if you just like mindlessly play the game without thinking about what you're doing, then it just reinforces bad habits, right? You need to be very like mindful about looking at the screen and knowing what you're doing. And,
Yeah.
like, try to make sure like you're doing things that actually make sense to do and like doing things that make sense in the context of the situation. So like for example, like we had that full hop fair somewhere around here.
Yeah, when I was full hop went into the middle of the stage
Yeah.
and just fell down on top of her. Got out smashed.
Yeah, it's just like I can't find the timestamp, but yeah, it's just like, oh, what actually makes sense to do whenever you're looking at where your characters are and what they're doing, because that would help a lot. Because like, and it would also help like with the instant double jump stuff. Like it's a terrible habit that will absolutely get you destroyed.
Yeah.
And it's also like a pretty big deal that you didn't know that you had instant double jumps. Yeah, right here.
Yeah, and it's something that like I don't realize that I'm doing, and and just like you said, it's something that Justin told me before is I don't really have intention in what I do,
Uh-huh.
and it's something that I need to work on,
Yeah, I mean, so that's a question for you. How are you gonna do it?
and that's I I don't know.
Yeah, so it's
I
like
don't
it's one thing to know you like have a problem, right? But more important than knowing
how do
what
I
the
fix
problem is, yeah, is like, yeah, what steps are you going to take to address that problem? Because otherwise, like, you could just be like, oh, I always do that, and then you don't do anything about it. Well, of course you're going to keep doing it because you aren't like trying to fix it. So the question is, how are you going to fix the problem? Not what is the problem. It's not just what is the problem. It's how am I going to fix my problem?
it? Like, do you know like any mindsets or any like ways to practice on fixing bad habits, like instantly double jumping?
Well, what I always do is I try to replace them with good habits. So, like, for example, if I were a Sheik player here and I had a bad instant double jump habit and I noticed that or it was pointed out to me that it got me killed, then what I would say is, okay, I'm going to practice, and then in every single spot where I get hit off stage, I'm going to try to save my double jump. And then I would just like not worry about the rest. And well, like me, I used to play with Magi a lot, right? So it's like when you play against Magi a lot, you get hit off the stage a lot. So in that case, it makes a lot of sense for you to start saving your double jump.
Yeah.
So it's like, instead of being right here and getting forward thrown, instead of autopiloting here, I would try to intentionally in my practice, every single time I get hit off the stage or thrown off the stage like this, I would at the very least be trying to drop low and double jump to the ledge rather than just like double jumping back like this.
Yeah.
So that's an example of what you can do. Instead of just like, I mean, I don't know what your practice looks like now, but like I think it's like a very simple thing to fix as long as you're like actually looking at it.
Yeah, I've always had knew I had like these habits, but I've never really I guess I never really put any thought on how to fix it.
Yeah, and that's like the most important thing, right? Because otherwise they just stay there because you just keep letting yourself do them.
Yeah.
So yeah, so with this, it's like also, so just like in general, whenever people point out your habits for you, your bad habits for you, you need to not just be like, oh, I see, I have a bad habit of this. You also need to start thinking about the steps you're going to try to do to not be as exploitable.
Yeah. Another like thing that I tend to do is like just jump to platform out of corner. I never roll.
Sure.
I feel like that's something else I could just fix just by rolling or just using
Yeah,
another option that's not jumping
yeah,
to prep.
instead of always jumping, you could say, okay, today I'm going to only try to get out by fighting my way out. Or you could say, I'm going to only try to get out by like holding shield and then like finding a good time to roll in. So on and
Yeah.
so forth. I think all of that is, that's a good idea. And like I know you can only work on so many things at once, but like for me, it's like it's pretty easy for me to like so like what do you practice now?
Lately I've just been like moving around stages and just speeding up CPUs.
Yeah,
If I like for solo practice.
yeah, that's fine. And what about whenever you play friendlies?
Friendlies, I mean, it honestly kind of looks like these puff games. I guess they're not as serious as I should be taking them if I'm on autopilot.
Yeah, so you could definitely benefit from actually trying to focus and play those and like and play the friendlies more actively, right? Because if you autopilot in friendlies all the time, then of course when you play tournament, you're also going to autopilot constantly because that is your only form of practice.
Yeah.
I mean, you do music, right? You know that like you pretty much perform exactly how you practice, right?
Yeah.
So if you perform during a performance, you always revert to like whatever your muscle memory has taught you. And if you're playing melee and you know your entire thing is just like, oh, like I just kind of like I don't know, I'm not really looking, I'm just like goofing off, I'm gooning, I'm having a good time. Then like that's pretty much what your like quote unquote serious play is going to look like.
Yeah.
So if you want to take steps to fix that, then oh, I always autopilot in tournament. Then the answer is try not to autopilot in friendlies.
All right. I remember one of my music teachers used melee as an example for me to improve in music because it's almost the same exact thing for like the practice and perform and the different options that you have within the two subjects.
Yeah, this doesn't mean you can't like play you can't fuck around sometimes, and it doesn't mean you can't just like you shouldn't you should never just try to win really hard or whatever. But it does mean that some proportion of your practice does need to be like intentionally geared towards changing the things that you want to change until you're capable of incorporating those elements like more seamlessly into your play.
All right. Um.
Okay.
I,
Yeah, I think that's about it for this VOD. Do you have any other questions?
uh. I think we covered enough for me to work on right now. I don't want to like bombard myself with too much.
Yeah, and like if you have any questions about that stuff, you could totally ask. I don't, I'm available, and I don't really have a problem with anybody just like asking me questions. I'm usually like pretty free to just like answer any questions someone might have whenever, even if I'm work, I'll just like whenever I get free, I'll try to give a good answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just like work on those things. I think it's very important for you to like work on fixing your instant double jump problem. Try to like go to sweet spot the ledge with your double jump at the very least instead a lot of the time. Um, and try to like just pay attention to what's happening on the screen while you're playing.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, and if you want another analysis or whatever at like next week or whenever, yeah, just hit me up. We can do the same thing. Just like give me a time and we'll see if we can make it work.
All right. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Peace.
All right. See you.